Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so kindly for joining us. Welcome to Green Apple Books in the Park. My name is Car Johnson. I'm the event coordinator for Green Apple. And tonight I am very proud to welcome back to the Bay Area. Very excited to welcome back to the Bay Area Bruce Snider as we celebrate. Bruce, welcome back. Thank you. Thank you for bringing all your friends on a Monday evening. Thank you all for coming out on a holiday week, on a weeknight. You could be anywhere and you are here with us. We appreciate that. Bruce is joined tonight by the poet Randall Mann. Let's give a hand for Randall. A pretty dynamo team we have here this evening. For those of you who know, you know, and those of you who don't know, you will find out shortly. Very glad that you are here joining us. Thank you for joining us here in person and also online. Hello, online audience. I'm waving at a camera. If you can't see, thank you for joining us via YouTube. We are broadcasting from San Francisco, California. We open each of our events with a land acknowledgement. I would like to let you know that we are operating on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land, and we think that with land acknowledgement requires land action of some sort, and so we encourage you to donate either your time or monetary means to an Indigenous organization each time you hear a land acknowledgement. Given that this is also Thanksgiving week, we think that's particularly pertinent, although this is a practice we have year-round. We have details about the Ramaytush Ohlone Land Trust at the back desk if you are interested in how to participate in this project of rematriation. That is but one channel to do so. I have very brief business before I let these two take over. Now's a good time to silence your cell phones. If you have not already, please don't take a call while you're sitting here in the middle of the event. I have been told that photo taking is not only encouraged, but the more the better, But that's a direct quote, but no bad photos. No bad photos are allowed. So only good photos, please. Please do check out our full event calendar online at greenapplebooks.com. This is our second to last event of the year 2025, so thank you for making it a good one. We really appreciate that. And we have a robust programming calendar coming up in the new year, so do check that out. Please do, if you are able, buy books. Please do buy books from us, your hosts, if you are able. If you have been here before, you've certainly heard me say that when you buy books from us, not only do you support us as an independent bookstore, you support the writers who put so much work into making these books, and then you get to have a book, which might be the best part. So if you are able, we always appreciate it. Thank you so kindly. I'll let you know, too, if anyone else in the back wants to sit down, you can come sit next to me where I'm standing here. You are welcome to. I also have no pressure. You're welcome to stand. That said, what to expect this evening. We're going to hear work from both Randall and Bruce in that order. They are going to have a brief conversation. We will open up for audience questions, and we'll have a signing line that will begin right where I am standing. I'm going to write your name on a Post-it note. Even if you know our poets very well and want your book signed, please let me write your name on a Post-it note. It would give me no greater pleasure. So thank you for that. And I'll remind you at the end of the evening as well. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the two writers who are joining us tonight. First, Randall Mann is the author of 6 collections of poetry, most recently Deal, New and Selected Poems out from Copper Canyon Press. He works in biotech, teaches at the Bennington Writing Seminars, and lives here in San Francisco. Let's give one more hand for Randall Mann. And last but most certainly not least, Bruce Snider's previous collections include Fruit, Paradise, Indiana, and The Year We Studied Women. He is a co-editor of The Poems Country, Place and Poetic Practice. Snider's awards include an NEA Fellowship, a Wallace Stegner Fellowship, a James A. Michener Fellowship, and the Jenny McKean Writer in Washington Award. He lives in Baltimore and teaches in the writing seminars at Johns Hopkins University. His latest book, Blood Harmony, is out from the University of Wisconsin Press and is the reason we are here tonight. Let's give another hand for Bruce Snider.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So this night is not about me, but it's about Bruce, and so I'm so excited to help him celebrate Blood Harmony. It's a fantastic book, and so I'm going to be reading for 9 minutes because I timed it, and I'm not a monster. Just going to read some new poems. See how that goes. The day. The constipated leak. The predatory line. The ordinary bleat. Everything is fine. I pay the gray away. I grapple for a pun. I worry that I peaked in 1991. The men, the Entenmans, the blaring of a sax, anemic as a safe derivative of sex. I had a special friend. He waxed his stash and cock. He died before his time a measured knock. Life is judged by deeds, but words will stir the plot, rampant as inflection, gripping as a slot. Life is inches thick, it's more than I can say. A binder clip can hold this utter dossier. The day is white as flight that ferries the elite. The rats are technocrats, and love is obsolete. Ledger. To see the density of windmills in Malta, Caravaggios on the nose. This is July, mincing toward. A tier worse than economy plus, the rest of us, but the view. I'm a curled world URL, like Carmelites, I cede my rights. Look at me, I'm a twee Pasolini, or trying to wince like Dirk Bogarde at my MasterCard. Anytime is optimist, my Italian tutor grants. Casual knowledge, a slant ledger. I want an insignificant other, analog model handsome. I'm viscous as expired cream. Oh, but there was once a time. A vicious, sincere stranger stopped me in an alleyway. You have the most beautiful fingers, he had to say. You must play. I think about Kevin Killian all the time. Kevin Killian. Arriving at a reading or an opening, I still expect to see Kevin, who showed up for everyone. I can't get my head around it. I joined his last incarnation of Poets Theater. I was awful. Guess that was the point. In Life After Prince, my part a dazed Alec Baldwin. I've had better coke in the scalp of Goldie Hawn. Then on stage for the last time at the Stud, Ari was there, and Dodie. I played Kevin's horny dad. He held a cane, but didn't let on. In a few weeks, gone. But he was industrious to the end. He threw one of his famous parties for an ambitious poet from NYC, held it at Minna Street, invited us all. Even George Kuchar turned up. He told me later he never heard from NYC, the current laureate of cocaine bloat. Not even a thank you note. We often underestimated Kevin. And of course, when none of it matters, the watery tributes come pouring in. The truth. 15 years in this apartment, a story above, as it were. Flaws in the wood, my household gods, and now and then a sense of control, like the rent. Many friends have been sent away, casualties of new currencies. I joke with Doug, we're the last ones standing in more ways than one. I'm never leaving, I like to say, but as the bros who enter me say, there is a non-zero probability. Outside, the birds, like bards, converse in a somewhere tree. These rooms, familiar but uncertain as a marriage. Is there anything worse than familiarity? Options feel immortal, if I could feel. To know is talk, and talk is wind, and wind will let opinions in. I turn my back on the abstract and then, dull as betrayal, back around. There's not much more to be found in verse. The truth is worse. And this is the last poem. This has an epigraph from Don DeLillo from Cosmopolis. We die because it's the weekend. Weekend. This day is half alive, resides in afternoon. I lick a greasy spoon and shoot my 45. I dash Dracar Noir, fade my hair to black. I date the zodiac to rate a lucky star. The city is aspiring. Cephology is trending, a fairy tale ending. The mirror, the admiring. I listen to the sick lovers double talk as plovers power walk the body politic. I run atop a hill, my battery, the salt, my flattery at fault. I pop another pill, I feel the otherness. Admission makes me cringe. I'd like to say I binge on Emma's governess, but no, I stream a show. The crimes are slack and new. The times are slick and true. The devil that I know. Thank you.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Yeah. It's so great to see so many faces that I know out here. Thank you guys all for coming. It's such a joy to see everyone. And it's so great to be back in San Francisco, and especially so great to be back in Green Apple Books. And Leslie and I, as many of you know, lived around the corner from here for how long, Leslie? Like 19 years. So this really was, in many ways, a second home to us. And so thank you to Carr and to Green Apple for hosting this reading. It really is such a pleasure. And thank you to Randy for joining me in this. Randy is one of the first people I met, I think, here in San Francisco at a party when I moved here in 2003. It's actually the same party I met Leslie at.
Oh, wow.
Believe it.
We were 10.
Yeah. You were 10. This is true. But genuinely, thank you all so much for coming out and for helping me sort of launch this book. So I'll say just a couple things about the book. The book, my own kind of elevator pitch in my head for this book for a while, as the book comes together, I'm trying to understand, what is this book about? And my own pitch to myself was that it was about brotherhood, addiction, queerness, and country music. And they kind of came together and became a lens. I've always written a lot about gender and masculinity, and brotherhood was kind of another way of thinking about that. And more personally, the book comes out of really is born out of the fact that I come from a small area, a small town in northern Indiana, that, like so much of the Midwest, was hit pretty hard by the opioid epidemic, and my family was in particular, and my extended family, lots of cousins, and my own brothers. And so I wanted, addiction really became a way for me to think about brotherhood in this book. And so I think that's, I should say that the title Blood Harmony, it's a term, actually, it's a country music term that refers to, it's often a phrase used to describe the remarkable harmonies that were displayed by sibling singers. There's this whole amazing history of, the Carter family, or the Stanley brothers, or the Louvin brothers, or the Statler brothers, lots of brothers. And they had these remarkable harmonies because they grew up singing together, and they knew each other's voices so well. And there were these amazing moments, if you listen to those singers, where you can't really tell who's singing which part, and they actually become a single voice, it seems like, and then they split apart. And I was kind of thinking about that as a kind of metaphor for brotherhood, in the ways that you mirror each other at times, and then you don't. and so that's kind of the lens, the broad lens of the book. But I thought I'll open with a poem. I just thought I'll open with the first poem in the book, which is a poem that uses science, and science is a lens I bring into this book quite a bit. But it's a poem that I think is really about pain, and the biology of pain, and thinking about it, because I think addiction really is born, it's born out of the desire to avoid or manage pain so often. And so the title of it is Reading That Johnny Cash Suffered from Autonomic Neuropathy When He Recorded Hurt. And Hurt was a song, if any of you know Johnny Cash, it was actually an old 9 Inch Nails song that he covered in the early 2000s. And the title goes right into the body of the poem. Reading that Johnny Cash suffered from autonomic neuropathy when he recorded Hurt. I remember my brain is made of 73% water, which means I'm a lake that suffers when a pain response spreads from my blistered finger to my prefrontal cortex, amygdala, and temporal lobe. The latter is where jokes are made, which is why, when my friend stubs his toe, we laugh so hard it's as if we're made of laughter. Dolly Parton once said that laughter through tears was her favorite emotion, but Herodotus believed it could bring the wrath of the gods. Laughter can be a symptom of epilepsy, mania, or chemical addiction. It can cause in excess irregular heartbeat and cardiac rupture. Experiments show mice can be tickled into spasms that resemble laughter. But in the Middle Ages, some thought it blasphemy to suggest Jesus laughed. What do I know? Most days I'm made of doubt, or at least the protein-based brain enzymes that trigger it. The human hand is woven of the same carbon found in glass and tree bark, which might be why some mornings I'm made of mirrors and the rough knots of a dead hickory, and other days I'm window panes and the lush pink petals of a flowering crab. What, I worry, am I meant to feel? The truth is, pain responses travel from sources of tissue damage through a braid of fatty nerve fibers to a brain flooded with infinite desires and fears, which I've read is what I'm made of, when I'm made of water, saliva, tears. And this next poem, which doesn't really need any setup, I don't think, is called Factory. This pill is a white bird in your cortex. This pill pleads, no, no, no. This is the pill that Alice took, a burning wick in the mouth, a white hot coal. This pill tastes like tomorrow, this pill like cool rain on your mother's face. This pill makes you happy, this pill blue. This pill is a snake in the rafters. It opens a window to the stars in your skull. This pill is a soft one. This pill's gone hard. This pill knows anything can be swallowed when the bright pill of the moon lights the yard. This pill is a room within a room, another locked closet, steps to the lake where the boy was found drowned. This pill is your always. This pill depends. This pill is a drill in your pocket, a horse kick, a full-bodied whine. This pill says, wakey, wakey. This pill, be mine. So they're a series of poems. I think of them as the brother poems, and they're untitled, and they kind of run through the whole book. They kind of tell the story, this sort of story of brothers. And I'm just going to read a couple of those that are early in the book. And like I said, they're untitled. When the doctor put her hand to the prescription pad, it started. When the first pill entered his body, it started when no one loved him, started when no one loved him enough. In the beginning, he was a machine among machines. In the beginning, scald from a boiler, a busted knee. He was always a slow burning, a short in the circuit box, a workers' comp claim. In the beginning, there was no beginning, just a going on. There was a day, then a day after. It started with the sound of his breathing, his middle cry emerging from the womb. He was born hungry, teeth in his belly, a third eye no one could see. There was always need in the needle. He was endless raw material, a common metal ore. Lights shone from the warehouse of his body. How could he not be beautiful when his feet cut a question through the tall spring grass? And this is another section. Brother of the free throw shot, brother of the peanut butter sandwich, of dirty socks and chewing tobacco, of iron forged in the heart of an ancient star, my brother of the second born, my brother of Indiana tattooed on his calf. Once he mooned the preacher's daughter through an open window. Once he stole the neighbor's tackle box. He was the brother who knew where the perch were bedding, brother of shotgun shells, of deer blood draining on cracked cement. I want to say I was kind to him, but we fought like brothers. My brother of the prison cell, my brother of mist rising over the backwoods. He was like the leaves on the trees, green and shivering. Once, when I laughed, he hit me with a 2x4. Once, when I broke my leg, he left all our friends and carried me home. So, country music is a kind of thread in this book, partly because I grew up, my grandfather played banjo and my father played guitar. And I grew up the earliest memories when I was a kid is going to bluegrass festivals. And so I think it's the first rhyme I ever heard was probably country music. And so I grew up with this, but when I went to graduate school in Texas, and what was kind of mind-blowing about Texas was they had these things that were country gay bars. And I had never seen such a thing. And so I this was in my early 20s, and I went, and suddenly there would be these two cowboys dancing to country music, and that was kind of mind-blowing to me. And as somebody who would go dance, what was amazing, and it was so different than any other kind of partner dancing that I had ever done growing up, if you would go two-stepping, and if somebody asked you to dance, you had to negotiate about who would lead and who would follow. And this was sort of a great, sort of interesting sort of shift in things. And so I'd always wanted to write about this space because the space these bars, like it was in Texas, so you actually had these guys that grew up on ranches, and they were kind of the real deal. They would come dance, and then you had these people who were kind of playing cowboy for the night. And I was really interested in the mix of the theater that was going on. I always wanted to write about this, but I couldn't quite find my way. And this is a very tiny sonic crown. These are sonnets, and you'll hear some repeated lines, etc. And this is I used to go to this place called the Rainbow Cattle Company. So this is at the Rainbow Cattle Company. No matter who leads tonight, who follows, I feel his stare as we work the floor. He swaggers from heel to toe. Is it his smile or his eyes I can't ignore? Even the lights wink, catching the pearled buttons on his black paisley shirt. The whole room tonight turns on his crocodile boots, his porn mustache, Mr. Crew Cut, Mr. High Firm Ass. The mirrors on the wall show us what we are and where we've been. Shania singing, the woman in me needs the man in you. What I give is what he takes. I move us hard until the music breaks. He moves us hard until the music breaks. I turn and almost trip. I fall behind. He grips my hand, taking me slow through the Oak Ridge Boys' Patsy Cline. The tempo shifts from sleep to wake. I pull away. He stops. He never speaks, but stares me down. Hand on my hip, he turns left, then right. I'm the whip he snaps. I'm the horse he rides. He's what I want and what I fear. In his arms, then not. My shadow glides around me like a skirt. In the mirrors, we turn, step, spin. He won't let go. How do you flirt? Quick, quick, slow, slow. I'm learning to flirt, quick, quick, slow, slow. My blood a mix of cheap, flat beer. He smells of wilderness, hot road tar, crew pomade. Half horseplow, half attitude. Is he a tease? I don't know his name, where he's from. Can't hear what he whispers in my ear. I've no excuse. His horseshoe buckle shines beyond a doubt. What's faith if not what I refuse to know? Will he be a priest tomorrow, a florist, a judge? He's a man now on a mission with a gun. In the mirrors, we're here again, with everywhere to go. No matter who leads tonight, who follows. So, over the years, I've seen a few Dolly Parton drag queens. And so I thought, if you're going to write about country music, you have to have at least a poem about, if not Dolly Parton, about a Dolly Parton drag queen. And the thing I always think that's interesting about Dolly Parton drag queens is Dolly Parton is already a kind of a drag queen, so it's like there's something very meta about the Dolly Parton drag queen that I'm fascinated by. And so this is a poem that's to a Dolly Parton drag queen. It's just a little sonnet. She lip syncs Hello God, then 9 to 5. She struts, or does she fly? Like the soul, a rhinestone, she tells us, will never die. She's a blush pink Bible, patched together, she's a cosmic doll. Mirror of a mirror, she winks, her face the only face. Anchors of abundance, her breasts are the news. More is more is more. A baptismal font, a witch walk down the last dirt road. She's hillbilly blood on a silk bandana, Marilyn or Medusa, caked lipstick on a flatbed truck. She's styrofoam in a cowgirl case, starlight on a stage. She's all eyeliner, she will not scare. She's the endless tease of her acrylic hair. So this next poem is called a contrapuntal poem, which for those of you who maybe non-poets out there, it's a poem that usually has two columns, and each column will read as a small poem on its own, and then you can read them together as another poem. So I'm going to read this. It's one poem, but you're going to hear me read 3 different sort of ways. So, and it's called Dueling Banjos. And this is the first column. Brother, I'm the gold star, no, the perfect attendance, the white rose in the vase, the know-it-all. I walk on water, carrying my cross. I'm the x-ray of our broken femur, the feeding, no, don't tell Dad. I'm the righteous girly boy, you the baby in the bar. Always what leaves, no, the flame that sputters in the darkness. Always, I'm what's left, no. This is the second column. My brother, I'm the man, no, I'm the fist that opens to a palm, source of all doubt. I fall down the hill. I'm the X marks the spot, no, I'm the man on the wolf's teat. I'm the feeding, don't tell Mom. You are the sun rising, no, the dove scattering. Our split rib, never. You, my struck match, no, the ignition, yes, that sputters, yes. I'm what's left, no, when you're gone. And this is the two together. Brother, my brother, I'm the gold star, no, I'm the man, no, the perfect attendance, I'm the fist, the white rose in the vase that opens to a palm, the know-it-all, source of all doubt. I walk on water, I fall down the hill carrying my cross. I'm the X marks the spot, no, ray of our broken femur. I'm the man, the feeding, no, on the wolf's teat. Don't tell Dad, I'm the feeding, I'm the righteous, don't tell Mom. You, girly boy, are the sun rising, no, you the baby. The dove scattering in the bar, always, our split rib, never. What leaves, no, you my struck match, no, the flame, the ignition, yes. That sputters, yes, in the darkness. Always, I'm what's left, no, I'm what's left, no, when you're gone. So I'm just going to read a couple more, and then we'll kind of chat a bit. And so I'm going to read another one of the kind of, I think of them as the science poems, and they're kind of thinking poems. And this is called Listening to I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry on My iPhone. And so as many of you I'm sure know, Hank Williams wrote I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. And Hank Williams is sort of one of the, he's often called the Shakespeare of country music. And I have several poems in the book that reference him or involve him in some way. And I thought of him as kind of the patron saint of the book in many ways, because he did, like so many country musicians, so many musicians, had a horrible addiction, died when he was in his early 30s, overdosed. And so he's kind of a spirit that hovers over the book in some ways. And this is, as I said, the title goes into the body of the poem. Listening to I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry on my iPhone. I hear above me a wren go chirr, chirr, and I know it's a wren because a yellow warbler goes chip, chip, and a nighthawk makes a sharp ping, and I'm reminded that sound is a sudden rush of molecules ripping toward the small shells of organic matter on the sides of my head that catch tides of vibrating air to forge the lawnmower's green roar, or the drain's fat gurgle, or Hank Williams, hear that lonesome whippoorwill. Owls who have no outer ear use facial discs to focus sound into funneled openings behind their eyes, so they can sense the scurry of voles and wood mice. When a human fetus is the size of a pea, cells are specializing to become the ears with which it will first hear through its amniotic sac the world's alien din, until at 9 months it arrives, suddenly with us, the way the planets, as Milton wrote, in their listening stood, which might have been his way of saying something about faith or God's voice, which maybe isn't a voice at all, but a massing of noise moving through us. Or maybe it's the interstellar crash of black holes. Or maybe it's Hank Williams, long dead, now filling this porch with his lonesome cry. If all singing is vibration, is the cell's decay its own kind of music? A rattle of atoms marking our passage from form to form? And is that the real voice of God? And are we in the end just a loop of sound and listening? Yes, I can't stop listening. And most days I'm not even sure where I belong. another temporary man with his questions, and a wren who sings, not because it has an answer, but because it has a song. And then I will end with this poem, and this is, it's actually the last poem in the book, and it's called Because America is a Place the Brain Makes. And if you've ever seen, I don't know if anyone out there's ever seen your own MRI, it's very strange to see the brain. You know, it is kind of like a strange map. I was thinking about this, looking at it in an MRI, and also thinking about the America that we live in right now, and America that it seems like we've all created together in some ways. And as somebody, I was writing a lot about bluegrass in this book, so it had me thinking about Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. And one of my all-time favorite poems of all time is Walt Whitman's Song of Myself, which, of course, is this profoundly optimistic poem about America. But it's such a strange poem to read now sometimes, because it's harder in this moment, at least for me, sometimes to feel as optimistic about it. So this is my kind of America poem, I suppose, that's thinking about all of these things. Because America is a place the brain makes. I hold my MRI up to the light, lobes like small towns glimmering in the ghost gray gelatin, blue pines, theories of mind, ions and electricity, dizzy needles from which action and experience sing. Meaning rivers of dopamine cut unseen through the trees, and love is a place you can point to there, where the cells have hardened into impossible stones. And there's pleasure and greed, its shores littered with Diet Pepsi cans and syringes. Today I'm nothing but shuttered factories and leafy gas pumps, networks of truckers hauling oranges and Oreos past rehab centers, and righteous rage. These lands are stolen lands, barns and silos, the road signs of excitement, indigestion, fear. Somewhere I keep flooding, though I'm taken by drought. I am lit, I am legible fig and lemon, salt block and soybean field. And though my brain makes everything, funky taste of marijuana smoke, crunch of dirt beneath my feet, I am its crumbling municipalities, its war machines. I'm the carnage of its cranes and wrecking balls. And there is a church steeple rising, and there is the place we call home, which is a cell divided, which is America, under a sky as vast as pain, its clouds arguing for the high, unmown grass, sweetness, rain. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, I'll sit here. I can adjust this.
So good to hear those poems read out loud after reading the manuscript. So I figured I'd just ask a couple of questions, and then we just open it up if anyone has any. I came prepared.
I knew you would.
I guess I'll start here. You just read the poems, but you also mentioned that this is a book about addiction and family and also recovery. But I was curious how you negotiated the truths and the fiction of that, but also the propriety of it, because you're writing about family and all of this. So, something that I think about when I write about people or personal things. And so I'm just wondering how you thought about it, if you thought about that, and how you negotiated, presumably you did, and how you negotiated that space.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tricky thing, and I do, when I write, I always write out about, it always starts with some personal seed, and then the question is, how do I make it bigger than that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do I understand how this is bigger than me? And I will say this was, when I write in the beginning, I just pretend like nobody will ever read it.
Right.
That's what I do at first. Nobody's ever going to read this. I write whatever I want. And then it's later that I have to think about it. And there are some things I changed and things that I actually omitted or cut because I thought, I don't know about this. And I wanted to be truthful. There's a brother in here that really is really a mix of my two brothers, really. I mean, the truth is both of them had struggled with addiction, and one of them more seriously so. And so for me, part of it was, I really wasn't writing about them. I was writing, always I think I'm probably writing about me and my response to them and what they brought out in me, right? And to always come at it with a sense of truthfulness, but also a sense of compassion and a sense of that the truth is I'm really just trying sometimes to understand something maybe about myself. And I'm lucky because I come from a family that aren't readers much at all, not literary people. And so they do, and in particular with poetry, I've always had this sort of secret power because if I break it into lines, I swear they just assume they do not understand what is happening in the poem. And I've always had the ability to then really write about things that are quite personal. And they never ask me a thing about it. I think they're always very supportive and very proud of me, but at the same time, there's something I think maybe they don't. And I have several prose poems in this book that are kind of scenes. And I've actually been most worried about them because I thought, well, they might read those and feel like they can ask me questions about them. But I did, and I did talk to my brothers about this a bit before once I started to realize what I was doing, and then talked to them, and they were very supportive. So that's my biggest concern, is just that they feel okay about it.
Right.
And they don't really care. It's poems. They're like, who's going to read poems?
Right.
That's what I think.
Seriously.
I'm like, nobody's going to read poems.
Yeah. Literally no one.
Yeah, literally no one. So they're fine.
Yeah.
But it is certainly something I do think about, and it's,
Yeah. I asked that question too, but I also tend to think that if we're given these gifts, like subject matter to write about, like I always feel like, maybe I'm a bad person, but I always feel like I just have to do it.
Yeah.
And also people should hang out with poets at their own peril, honestly. Really, honestly. Don't date them. Sorry.
Never date a poet.
Yeah, never date a poet. No, that's great. And then I wanted to ask you about returning to writing about Indiana, and I think about one of my favorite writers in the whole world is William Maxwell, and he would return to his boyhood in Illinois and write about that.
Yeah.
And you continue to return to this place, and what is it? So, what is that like to continue to want to capture and mythologize this particular place? Because in some ways, it's such like the hallmark of your work.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I had such an ambivalent, and I think that's the reason that I write about it, is that I had such a kind of fraught relationship to where I grew up. And and because of that, because it is something, I think poetry is born of these things you can't resolve, right? That because it's unresolvable, it's this enormous wellspring for me that I can kind of draw on, and it becomes mythic in my mind. And it's like in Indiana that both, sometimes I record things that are true but I haven't lived in Indiana for, I don't even know how long, 30 years. And so, I don't know, I carry a bit of it with me. It marked me so much. I've always tried to, I think at the heart of my work really is something about belonging. And I think I never really belonged, and yet I did love people there and felt loved by people in ways. And so writing is this way I can keep writing myself into that place and imagine it and reimagine it and rewrite it. And it just becomes this container for me in a way. And that is actually most inspiring when I'm not there. In fact, during the pandemic, I got stuck there, and I actually had a little trouble writing because I was too in it. I needed to be away from it, where I could make it all up.
Yeah, you weren't alone with that pandemic moment there.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
I'm sure I
wasn't.
It wasn't Indiana. Yeah, it wasn't just Indiana.
So, should we just maybe open it up?
Sure. Yeah, if people have questions.
If
or
people have questions.
Yeah, or if not, we can.
I have a question. First, I want to thank you both. I feel nourished by listening to you. I was very captivated. I want to ask you about writing as an art form in itself, as something that is literature and beautiful, and something that is healing, that is therapeutic.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think that for me writing is therapeutic, although it's not really the primary reason I write, because I am always thinking of a reader, right? Like I'm always interested. I always think this about writing in general, that one of the things you're trying to do, it's different. It's like as a teacher, I have to sort of communicate this to students, is that so much of what I'm doing is kind of pivoting them a bit in terms of they've often been taught to write analytically. And it's a really different thing that you're doing when you're writing a literary text, right? So whether it's fiction or certainly poetry, and you're trying to embody these experiences rather than explain them or analyze them. But you're trying to create, to my mind, an experience for the reader. And in fact, I always go back to science, but there's some really interesting science around this. And we know, for example, like in our, like if somebody sits, and I've read these studies, that we have these neurons in our brain that flash. When somebody sits, these neurons flash in my brain, and I understand what they're doing because I do it, right? So I sit, so I understand what sitting is because I do it. These neurons that would flash when I sit, flash when I see someone sit. They also flash when I read about someone sitting. And so often, I think what you're trying to do in writing is get something to happen in the reader's body, right? You're not just trying to explain to them what's happening, but to feel it as if it's happening to them. And so there's this bridge. I think it's almost like a superpower, because without touching them physically, you change their body a bit, right? You change their brain. And so it's building this bridge. And so to me, there's something about it that's about connecting to other readers, right? Other human beings. That's really powerful to me. That's part of it. That is, there are other kinds of maybe healing that can happen, but there's something about that gesture that to me is really central to what I'm interested in writing. And like I said, I love this idea that like I can affect everybody's brain chemistry just sitting up here. I'm just like a puppet master. So that's a good question. Thank you. Yeah.
So that's sort of related to what my question was, which is what draws you think, to the way you use science in your poems, and really seems like specifically biology in your poems.
I think probably biology. It's interesting. There is. I do use other science, but I do probably draw on biology a lot because I'm interested in the body, and I think I get the same thing out of science. I'm very interested in this period. There's a period during, there's a wonderful book called the Age of Wonder, and I'm going to forget his name. He's a romantic biographer. He did all the biographies of Coleridge and all these romantic poets. But it was a period in history when it was before what we know as, we didn't call science, that what poets did and philosophers and scientists, it was all considered this big thing called natural philosophy. And it was really these different ways of engaging the world and trying to understand the world. And we've since separated them into these discrete disciplines. I'm really interested in the overlap. And I often, when I read great stuff about science, I often have the same experience I do from poetry, which is to see the world anew, to experience wonder, right? Like you read something crazy about the human body or the brain or the way something functions in the universe. And I have that experience of wonder and awe, and it's, I think, part of what I go to poetry for too. And so it feels like a natural, it's like another lens. And the other thing I like about it is that because my own impulses are fairly romantic and maybe even can go a little sentimental, I like the kind of anti-sentiment of science, the raw facts. I like the language of science. It isn't sentimental, it isn't fuzzy. And I love to bring it into the poem because it resists me. and a lot of my other impulses. And so I think it's more interesting. Yeah. Yes.
So regarding the process of the science,
Yeah.
incorporating it, is this all like information you already have in your head, and then it just comes out in the poem, or do you like have an idea and then do some research when you're writing the poem? How does it happen?
It's a mix of things. So, sometimes I keep this journal where I just write down when I hear, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And as Leslie will know, I've been forbidden to speak about podcasts anymore. I don't know if you're in a relationship where you've been forbidden against speaking about certain subjects because you talk about it too much, and are accused of giving mini lectures on this subject. So I will listen to these science podcasts and just get kind of blown away, and so I sometimes take notes. But then there are times when I'm writing about something and I realize I'm writing this essay, I'm writing about something about memory, and I start to think, how does the biology of memory work? And then I'll go read about it, and I'll take notes about it, and then sometimes I'll bring it in then. So it's a mixture of things. Sometimes I have little facts sitting around that I just absolutely love. I'm waiting for the poem to come along that I can put this in because I'm so amazed by this. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, yes, Michael.
With this new book, did you start from scratch? Did you have any poems kind of drafted out before you sat down, or?
I didn't. But books kind of come together. I mean, I just start writing poems, and then inevitably you start to realize for me anyways, I think maybe a lot of poets like this, just you're sort of obsessing about something. And for this book was a little different in the sense that I'd started writing a series, these poems about my brother. And there was something in the very first beginning, I thought I was writing a long poem. And in the beginning it was called Again, because I was interested in the againness of addiction and recovery, that experience you have of, okay, here it is again. You're going through it again. You're going through it again. And what is that like? And I think for me, when I started to realize, that's actually also poetic form, because poetic form is always about repetition, right? All kinds of little repetitions. And when I sort of thought that, then when I understood that my subject was somehow conveyed or embodied in the sort of just fundamentals of poetic form, it got even more interesting to me. And I thought, this is maybe a book. And then I kind of started to play around with all the different ways that might be true. But the last book of this wasn't true at all. There were personal poems in that, I wrote those all last. This one, I wrote all of the brother poems first. And then I started thinking, and then I call them my thinking poems, these science poems, that are pulling on some of the ideas and trying to kind of spill them out in new ways. Because one of the issues with repetition, if you're going to do the againness of something, was the fear that it would become repetitive, redundant in some way, right? Like, how do you, because it's like writing in fiction, you can write about a bored character, but you can't have the reader be bored. And so you have the challenge of trying to figure out, okay, if I'm going to write about the kind of tedium in many ways of addiction and that kind of ongoingness, then I still have to keep the reader engaged and make it meaningful. And so how do I balance those things? And so, this is maybe longer than even what your question was, but that's sort of how the book kind of emerged and how it spills out for me. Usually it's like, in writing a book, I write something and then I have all these problems with it. And then with it as a book or a manuscript or something. And then the problems are really opportunities for you to push something in some new way. Is how I think about it.
Well, I love the calm poem, and I wonder also, what's that process like? Written those before?
I had never written one of those before. I don't know. I actually wrote, that's one of the few poems I actually wrote in Indiana at Christmas during the pandemic, trapped in the house. I never had. I just started really following the sort of sounds of it more than anything. So, Nathan. Okay.
What is your greatest struggle in the process of determining when a poem is finished?
What is my greatest struggle? That's interesting. I mean, I find my greatest struggle with writing in general is ending a poem. I have a million beginnings. But it's like I have a million starts of something, and the question is, where do they go? What's the journey of this piece? And so, I always feel like once I have an ending, I have a poem. Right. And I've heard other poets say it. I think Louise Glick used to say she could end anything. It was beginning a poem she struggled with. But I really struggle with that. So once I have an ending, it may mean that I'm going to refine it for a while, but I think, I have a poem because I know where this arrives now. And knowing when it's done, I also have a couple of really good readers that I count on to help me see what I don't see. But then there are even poems still in this. I was reading something the other day and I thought, I want to cut that phrase. Like you just steal little things that I want to edit. So, thanks. Okay, we have one more question if we have a question out there. We have time for one more. Yeah.
So I just kind of glanced at it, but it's a Rainbow Company.
Yeah.
So that poem was really, I feel like it really tied in the way that you kind of like deliver the cognitive focus of the for the viewer or reader, right?
Yeah.
Something I thought was really cool was how you tapped into the kind of like the question and answer of like who's leading, who's guiding, but also as someone who's like been to like places where you do have to kind of like show up and dance, you can't show up and hang out on the wall.
Yeah.
There is kind of like this moment where it feels like while you were reciting the poem, it felt like you were having that pace of like the 1-2 that felt kind of like very synonymous with like I guess specifically Texan like dance culture.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really interesting because on the flip side of it, like one of my first experiences seeing what in Los Angeles we call like real cowboys was in a similar setting where I was like, I'd never seen a cowboy until I first saw a gay cowboy. That's a very LA thing.
Right.
I feel like that's a really good first and second line.
Well, I never saw a
seen a cowboy. You can have it. It's really your thing.
It's mine.
But yeah, definitely use it, dude.
Yeah.
I can start anything. But no, I just wanted to say like that was a really like from a viewer, right? Like it was a really cool and clever way of like threading in the entirety of like the music love, like the music culture within the writing. I thought it was killer. So
thanks.
So it was probably.
Yeah, it's a kind of compressed. It's called a sonic crown, which maybe you heard the first line of the poem is also the last line of the poem.
Yeah.
And it has these repeated lines, and one sonnet ends, and the next sonnet has to start with that line or a version of it. And that's actually, again, I tried to write about that subject for a long time, and this is where poetic form is really helpful for me. I couldn't find my way into it. I wrote a lot of bad versions of it, usually because I'd already had so many ideas about this space. And that's always a problem for me. If I already have a bunch of ideas, I often get stuck because I have to discover something. And so poetic form can be a way to do that. And what I liked about the form was something about repetition and dance, like the two-step. You're just repeating these same things over and over again. And so something about that form started to feel like, it's enacting this. And once I figured that out, I could really follow the form a little bit, lean into it. So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. But thank you all for coming out tonight. Seriously, it really means a lot to me. Thank you again to Randy.